Two Point Museum just released one of the best DLCs that they have released yet. Period. End of statement. This is terrible for my retention, but I have to give you an honest review right at the top of the video because I feel like I have to. For those of you that are new to this channel, hi, hello, welcome. My name is John. I go by Rogue Reefing here on YouTube and on other social media platforms. And I actually used to work in museums. I used to work in a art, science, history museum, and then after that, a art only museum. So you could say that I am very familiar with art at the very least. I would not say necessarily that I'm somebody that particularly likes art or seeks out art, but I can appreciate art. I appreciate the art, the science, and the history of a lot of these things, and I think that 2 Point Studios did an incredible job with this DLC. End of sentence. Again, this is going to be terrible for my retention, but I feel like I have to say it right at the start of the video, just because that's, you know, sort of my style. I think this is a fantastic DLC. It comes with 27 new art exhibits, including famous works. It comes out with new gift shop items, new cafe items, and new interactive art displays for your guests to interact with within the museum. So with that being said, I'm going to do a little bit of a deep dive here. We're not going to go into absolutely everything that this DLC has. I'm not going to go over every single piece either, because there's other YouTube channels out there that have done that. They've gone and done playthroughs of these DLCs where they've gotten absolutely everything. I have not gotten everything yet in this game. I only played about an hour and a half, I would say, of this DLC, and I got most of the stuff. I got some really good stuff that I was super excited about. Truthfully, I think that this DLC is the best one that 2 Point Studios have released yet. I think that this is exactly what the game was missing when it came out. I think that art, when you group it with science and history and archaeology, these things sort of work in harmony and fit perfectly to the museum theme. Now, I know I didn't give a review for the Zoozeum, which was the very last DLC that they gave, and the D&D one, which I forget the name of that one. Truthfully, I think this is what they should have led with when they released the game. This should have been the very first DLC that they released after the release of the game. I think that the last two DLCs were good. I think that the D&D one was really good. I think it fit the theme and it was kind of fun too. The Zoozeum one, I wish that they had saved that one for almost a standalone game. And truthfully, looking back now after the release of the game and after the release of the Zoozeum DLC, I almost wish that they had taken the aquarium theme and the zoo theme and taken them out entirely of this game and saved it for a second game, or, you know, technically a fourth game in the 2 Point universe. I think a 2 Point zoo would have been much more beneficial than a zoo DLC for this game. But again, here we are. This is the situation. It is kind of cool though that you can now create sort of like a standalone zoo in your museum, and technically it's not unheard of for museum umbrellas to sort of look after zoo animals. The point in case of that is the Smithsonian up in Washington, D.C. I say up in because I'm here in Florida, but The Smithsonian has a zoo that they have. It's sort of like the national zoo here in the US, and it's a wonderful institution, and it's a perfect fit within the sort of umbrella of the Smithsonian there, sort of capturing, curating all of these sort of things. Not that they're capturing or curating most of these animals. That's a whole tangent for another video. I'm not gonna get into that here. Anyway, getting back to the art DLC now, I think that this fits the loop of the gameplay that was already in place at the release of the game very, very well. And I think that this doesn't really add a lot of new features in terms of gameplay loop. There is a art studio in this DLC where you can hire artists and they can make art inside your museum. I love that. I think that's incredible. And I think, again, that sort of already fits the gameplay loop that was in place when this game released. Again, unlike the Zoozeum DLC, which added an entirely new gameplay loop, and to me personally is kind of confusing, but again, that's a separate thing for a whole nother video there. I think truthfully though, this DLC feels a little bit small. It feels similar in size to the D&D or the Fantasy Finds, that's what it is. It feels very similar to the Fantasy Finds DLC in size and scale. I actually don't know which one was bigger of the two, but I think that it feels small for what it is, but I'm okay with that because I think it fits well with the other themes that were already in place in the game, and I think that they're all pretty similarly sized. Again, I think Zoozeum was just way too big for what it was. So I would say my sort of final verdict here is that this is a must-buy DLC. If you are thinking about picking up the game and you don't have it yet, then I would say this is a definite must-buy. The other two DLCs, get them if you're interested in the sort of content that's there. But I would say this is almost a must-buy if you want to build a sort of realistic or accurate museum. One of the other cool things that this DLC comes with is theaters, and I am super excited about that. Not because I am particularly a theater person or anything, but these theaters in the game look almost exactly like the stage that I used to give presentations on in the museum that I used to work for. I used to do lectures on that stage, and I would talk in front of about 200 people pretty much for some of those lectures that I would give on all sorts of stuff. Most of them were school kids that would come that I would give talks to, but I gave some other talks there as well. And I think that these theaters in the game, you can get really creative with them. They're fully colorable, recolorable, and fully customizable. So you could technically now make a true planetarium. And I say true in air quotes because you still can't have your like space expert get up onto that stage and do like a lecture or something like that. I honestly kind of would love to see a like interpretation DLC. For those of you that are familiar with the channel, you'll know that one of the jobs that I had in the museum world was a interpretation specialist. So I was somebody that created text panels and information for people, audio guides, things like that, tours, and that's under the umbrella of sort of what's called interpretation, because you're taking the information and you're interpreting it in different ways. I think that 2 Point Museum does a wonderful job of interpretation as like the very base level of the game. But honestly, I would love to see some other inclusions in there, including, sort of like a multi-purpose stage where instead of you do a tour like they already have in the game, I would love to see the experts just get up there and do a lecture. I know it's kind of boring for most people, but genuinely in most museums, if it is not a tour or a self-guided tour or a text panel, most of the time you're going to be going to a stage and you're going to be listening to, or a small room for that matter, you're going to be listening to an expert, a curator, giving a talk on some various subjects. So I would love to see that sort of in the future here. Some of my favorite things in this DLC, I'm not going to go over every single piece again, just because there are other creators out there that have done that already, and I don't feel like I need to. I also want to let you experience the game yourself and go and find these things, because to me, that's part of the fun of this game. Is you don't know what's out there and you're going on these expeditions, you are discovering things of your own. And truthfully, I also don't know everything that's in this DLC. I haven't found everything for myself, so go find it, drop your cool stuff in the comments. But some of my favorite things, one of the very first things is the Great Wave of Hogsport in game, and I'll try to throw up images for all of these as well. The Great Wave of Hogsport is based off of Hokusai's Great Wave, arguably one of the most famous artworks to come out of Japan ever, I would say. Hokusai's Great Wave is a wonderful piece. I'm not going to talk about the history too much here, but I love that. That's one of my favorite artworks, and I think for a lot of people it's one of their favorites as well. So I'm glad to see the sort of 2-point style there being brought in for that painting. I also liked the persistence of dairy, I believe. I am dyslexic, don't shoot me in the comments. I don't know if it's dairy or diary. I'm pretty sure it's dairy, because it talks about cheese. But I love this painting, or well, technically it's not a painting in this game, it's a sculpture, but it is based off of a work by Dali, and I don't know the name of it. I'll try to throw it up on screen, the actual image and name of it there. But I love that because it's sort of the not hanging, but like melting clocks on these branches there, sort of the very surrealist, the Dada era of art there, and being brought into the 2-Point Museum universe with the persistence of dairy in the form of pizza instead of clocks. I love it. That is incredible. I also really love the sculpture that they have, the history of art. And actually, now that I say that, and I'm looking at this, the cup that I am drinking from while recording this video is a sort of history of art cup that I got from the museum that I used to work at, that has a bunch of artists' face on it. Totally unintentional. I did not mean to do that. But that sculpture to me is so important for this game, not in the sense of the history of art itself, but just the fact that to me feels like a real museum piece. That feels like something that I would see in a real museum, and I love that. I love 2-Point Museum, but I think with some of their things that they have in here, they feel a little outlandish and a little gaudy at times. But I think that this museum, or this DLC for 2-Point Museum, really nails on the head the feel of a real museum, and even down to the lighting that they have on the artifacts there, these paintings, where it's sort of the top-down spotlighting there, and gradually as you fill out these gallery spaces, it lowers down the lighting. I do still wish that we had more control over lighting in the game, but you know, beggars can't be choosers. This is one of the best lit DLCs in the game. I think that this just creates a beautiful, realistic feeling gallery space in your museums in game. So yeah, there you go. That's my review. I know I haven't put out a video in a very long time, but hopefully this will encourage you to get this DLC if you did not already. And if you are new to the game of 2-Point Museum as well, I highly recommend it. I'm not sponsored by them or anything. I would love to be, but I cannot recommend this game enough. It is a fantastic game. It is a fantastic little series that the 2 Point Studios have put out there with the other 2 Point games as well. I think this one is probably the best game that they have released yet, and with this DLC it shows me that it is getting better and better and better, and I cannot wait to see what they do with the future DLCs after this. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. What did you think of this DLC? Did you like it? Have you already picked it up? What are some cool things that you have found? And again, if you have made it to this far in the video, I just want to say thank you. There's a million things you could have been doing today, and you chose to spend a little bit of that time here with me and listen to me ramble on about a little DLC that came out for one of my favorite games. So thank you so much for watching. Again, as always, I will see you all in the next video. Take care for now.